A very good evening, and we come finally to the end of this two-day digital conference on spaces, places of growing up, mapping the geographies of growing up. And I would like to invite first Dr. Gargi Gangopadhyay, our conference coordinator, to say a few words.
Thank you, Doita. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. So finally, we can have a breather. And I think this is a good point where we can look back and do a kind of self assessment. So I was reminded of the time when we were trying to plan a conference from the department, and we were trying to put together a call for papers. Under, of course, the auspices of under the blanket of childhood studies, which is already there, but we wanted the call for papers to be inclusive, interdisciplinary, intersectional, and we also decided that it should be something that would not just engage with professors, teachers, researchers, but also with activists, also with maybe lawyers, architects, thinkers, and young students. So we were also particularly interested in UG and PG students, and we do not usually find them on platforms like these. So when the call for papers uh, had been there in a span of just 30 days, I think we had a wonderful response. And after working very hard, also, I must mention our collaborators, Dr. Anandini and Dr. Divya Kannan. They put together a final selection of over 50 papers from 10 countries and across time zones. But in particular, what we are very thankful about is the range of papers that came together for this conference. So I would briefly like to mention the wide variety of papers. So participants engaged with post-pandemic specialities, working class children, refugee children, rights of transgender children, children caught in conflict zones or wars and partitions. There were also papers on children as subjects or projects in colonization and nationhood, on spaces opened up through texts across a range of languages and cultures, and also on illustrations in children's books. Presenters addressed the spaces and places of the home and the family, very integral, of course, to childhood studies, of pedagogy and child rearing, education and leisure, and I must mention boredom as a space for childhood, for children. So, hopefully, at the end of it all, we are taking away with us a broader and a more inclusive idea of what constitute the sites of growing up. How should these spaces operate and function ideally, and how at times they are endangered and ruptured? Particularly intriguing and recurring throughout the conference was the question of belonging, and critiquing the idea of belonging. And at the very end, I would like to mention that we have plans for a publication, not in the form of conference proceedings, but either as an edited, peer reviewed anthology, or as a special issue in a journal. So we will talk or send you mails on that once the plan is in place. Secondly, I would mention that there will be a Google feedback form for all the participants, which we will mail to you. I'm requesting all of you to fill it up and submit it.
Thank you, Dr. Gangopadhyay. And I would request Dr. Anandini Dar to, she is our collaborator and co-founder of CCYSC, to share her insights on this conference. Dr. Dar.
Thank you, Dweta. I think Gargi has done an excellent job of sharing where this conference began from, what are the themes that have emerged in the conference. I would like to take this opportunity to also thank the entire department at RSMVVK Kolkata to have reached out to CCYSC and to collaborate with us. When CCYSC first began, Divya and I had co-hosted a conference in 2020, and the outcome, one of the outcomes of that conference was that collective, where we realized that there are a lot of young and emerging scholars who are not finding a departmental home per se for their work that looks at children and young people. They either tend to be sort of within departments of psychology or in English, but constantly sidelined as marginal. So any examination of the child is always marginal to the larger discipline. And I think this theme of the conference on, growing spaces and places of growing up both speaks to the disciplinary location of children and also how marginal the lives of children and young people are in terms of larger spaces, whether it's in public spaces or in spaces of the larger nation. And these themes also came up in the conference quite broadly. I think the set of papers that were shared were highly interdisciplinary, and also rooted within very strong disciplines. Yet they could speak to each other in various panels and themes that brought together the discussions, and shows us that there is a very productive and generative space for questions concerning young people and how they help us make sense of not just what is going on in the lived experiences of young people, but also how society and, the papers largely, of course, did focus on India and the subcontinent, but we had papers that were also looking at regions outside of India, whether it was Europe, Greece, Germany. But largely, of course, the Indian childhood came up as a question. But so what I was trying to say is that, it tells us that there is a need for certain kinds of spaces for examining children's lives that are marginal to some extent, but in these kinds of conferences that are encouraging cross-disciplinary dialogue, we might be able to find more spaces to speak to each other, find theories that are emerging from the global south that can be used towards examining and contesting modern Western understandings of childhood, which continue to dominate the field of childhood studies and many other disciplines in the ways in which we study and teach children's lives. So I'm looking forward to what Gargi said as an outcome of this conference. And I would welcome all the participants and presenters of the conference to join the Critical Childhoods and Youth Studies Collective, which can be easily found on the web, because we are only a web space currently, and it is theccysc.com. You can subscribe on the website when you scroll below, and we will add you to our Google group. You can also look at the various resources on our website, which include call for papers, other, joining other networks that look at issues around young people. We also have some publications of our members that we keep posting out. So we encourage you to write on the Google group, share what you're publishing. If you're teaching a course related to this topic, we have put up some reading lists that include course materials. So some references for those of you who are presenting here, you can look at those reading lists and also share and contribute to this small network or community of us working in this field. And we host webinars and events such as new book series. So if you've just published some work or a book, we'd be happy to host a discussion for it. And we think that one of the ways in which students, young people learn, of course, is new media, and podcasts are one of those. So if any of you found each other's works interesting, you might be in the same panel, you want to continue this dialogue, not end it here, just write to us at childyouth2020@gmail.com, and we'll try and put you together, and you can have a podcast of your own. It's very easy these days. I'm sure many of you know how to do it as well, and we can guide you on how to record a podcast on an area of interest that you may share with your co-presenter, perhaps, or someone else's work that you heard today. There is a list of several podcasts, almost 35, that we have posted online. So please do have a look at those as well. We have found some of our members using these in their classes. I've used them in my classes as well, and students seem to find it quite interesting. So, of course, blogs, if you like to, put up a little bit of your piece of your work as a blog piece, we'll be happy to take that up as well. And I'm really, really excited and that this conference has been so successful. We weren't able to be in Kolkata physically, but we were able to sort of join in online on the second day and also view some of these sessions. So I congratulate you all. And thank you again for really taking the bulk of the work of doing this kind of hybrid model of the conference. So I encourage everyone to stay connected, and I look forward to more collaborations emerging from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anandini. And finally, I would like to invite Dr. Chaiti Mitra to give the vote of thanks as we come to a close.
I'm afraid I have a rather long list, naturally. I will begin by expressing our sincerest gratitude to our college authority and our principal, Pravrajika Bedurupo Prana, for giving not only an opportunity, but also an almost free hand in planning and organizing this conference. Thank you for your constant support. While the event was in its planning stage, CCYSC came in as an intellectual collaborator and filled in the gaps with their valuable suggestions, network, and resources. Anandini and Divya, thank you for sharing our worries and concerns and for your generous support as well as critical inputs. Thank you for being there whenever we needed you. This was for the first time that our department was trying out a hybrid or digital mode of conference. We had very little experience and even lesser idea about the elaborate and complicated technical process this involved. We could not have done this without the technical support of Proho.in and its brilliant team of young, patient, technical, and media experts. I would dare not mention the numerous hurdles we crossed with their help. Thank you, Anitesh, Akash, Devjit, Shankar, and team for your patience, support, expertise, and cooperation. The two keynote speakers, Dr. Rimli Bhattacharya and Dr. Shopna Banerjee, with their brilliant and enriching presentations, have sparked off many critical thoughts in us listeners. We can't thank them enough for their cooperation and encouragement. Dr. Banerjee staying up till 1 a.m. at night to accommodate our session timings, Dr. Bhattacharya ignoring her physical conditions to fly down from Delhi, and also chairing the session today, negotiating unforeseen technical glitches. Our thanks also go out to our session chairs for their time, their engagement with the presentations, as well as for their valuable suggestions to the presenters. Your responses will surely encourage the researchers to delve deeper and more critically into their areas of interest. We had about 50 presentations from about 10 countries across the globe. Thank you, participants, for your enthusiasm, for your hard work, and excellent presentations. The conference owes its success to all of you, especially the overseas participants who readily adjusted to our schedule, staying up late or waking up early. Thank you also to the audience, the physical and virtual one, critical, encouraging, ever present. Interest and encouragement from our colleagues helped us brush up our ideas. The college support staff, with their constant presence wherever and whenever we needed them, particularly during the physical event, has been an invaluable source of support. And lastly, we could not have carried out this event, which required meticulous planning and, more importantly, efficient execution. And that's where our student volunteers come in, working round the clock, carrying out instructions, and, to our delight and surprise, working and taking independent decisions on their own. In short, managing the show. They were our strongest support systems, enthusiastic, dependable, diligent. Thank you, students. You never seem to surprise us. You never cease to surprise us. And on that note of gratitude and encouragement, we conclude the conference, hoping to meet again, work together again in the near future. Thank you and good evening.